Politico minimizes Democrat government shutdown as low-key. Of course they do. Would you expect anything less than that from Politico? Of course they're going to run cover for the Democrat Party. Of course they're going to spew propaganda. Really, there's no defense for this. So the only thing they can come up with is say that it's low key. When it but any other time there's a shutdown. The mainstream media is up in arms. They're in hysterics, and they're saying it's the end of the world and all these other things. But now that the Democrats are actually the reason of this shutdown, they're pretending like it's not a big deal. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. There's a link to my Patreon. That's where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Federalist, and they report that anybody who's been through a federal government shutdown in the past knows two things. One, outside of Washington, shutdowns go largely unfelt by the average American. And two, the dying news media will cover the stall with hysteria, plus blame Republicans. Which is why it's really interesting to see that this particular shutdown is not getting the same treatment by the media this time. Again, it's obvious. It's obvious why. It's because the Democrats are the reason for the shutdown, and they're going to do whatever they can to downplay it. No, in fact, Politico, the most Washington drama-obsessed news publication of them all, on Thursday described the current shutdown as, quote, low-key. The reason for the discrepancy is painfully obvious. Like I said, it is obvious. Democrats are undeniably at fault for this. Democrats are undeniably at fault for this one, and for very, very indefensible reasons. Like I said earlier, you can't defend this. A typical shutdown goes like this. Republicans and Democrats have a fundamental disagreement on some funding issue, and the media immediately get to work amping up sob stories about seniors not getting their Social Security checks because Republicans oppose one thing or another. The point is to portray Republicans with an undeserved reputation for opposing government spending as sociopaths dead set on starving grandma. That's conspicuously not the case this time around. No, there is hardly a peep about the safety net and welfare programs running dry. To the extent that there is, it goes like this NBC News article this week on federal food assistance, in which the only partisan mention, aside from a brief quote from a Trump admin official, is of both Republicans and Democrats acknowledging the program is running out of money. The outlet show little interest in finding out why. Of course not. They're disinterested in that if it's anything against their agenda or anything that makes the Democrats look bad. We know why. Democrat leaders have declined to continue the government for one reason: to show their irrationally angry base that they're quote unquote fighting. They're fighting President Trump. They got to show him something. They say on record that it's actually because they won't fund a budget that doesn't include health insurance subsidies for low-income Americans, but that's a farce. And even if it were the real reason, Republicans rightfully oppose it because it includes money for people in the country illegally, which the majority of Americans are in a disagreement with. We don't want our taxpayer money going to people that should not be in this country. But as to the real reason, fighting, it's a bridge to nowhere. Republicans have no incentive to support yet more welfare subsidies, no less because so much of it would go to non-citizens. So Democrats are effectively throwing punches at a ghost. Shutting down the government was such an obviously bad strategy that Kamala Harris endorsed it. You know, anything that Kamala Harris endorsed, it tells you is wrong. Everyone knows this, including the media. That's why this shutdown feels so quote unquote low key. And I mentioned this before. I mentioned this yesterday. They're playing right into Trump's hands because now Trump has the power to get rid of these government agencies that we really don't need, that's spending money, that's regulating us into oblivion. He can get rid of them, and there is nothing protecting him. The Supreme Court already said he has the right to do this. He won tons of cases showing this. And also, the guy that actually wrote the 2025 project, which Democrats are so against, right? Smaller government and stuff like that. He is in charge of this. He is in charge of getting rid of some of these agencies. So they played right into Trump's hands, and it goes to show that Democrats really are not that bright. They really aren't that smart. But y'all let me know what y'all think about all this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.